Do your past secrets haunt you? Do you wish to tell them, but something holds you back?
Come back, kid. You have a job to do.
No! Stop! Get away from me!
Stop running.
Is it over?
So we're done,
I'm
Huber.
back.
We're done.
We're finished.
Over.
Evil Within, done. Right?
Well,
Not getting any more.
There's
stuff?
one more with Safe Head, but we don't really think that'll be story driven.
Is that his official
Yeah.
name? Safe Head?
Yeah.
Like Pyramid Head? We got
The
Safe
Keeper,
Head?
they call him. So.
So we got Evil Within, then we got Evil Within: The Assignment,
Yeah.
which was 2 chapters, and then we get Evil Within: The Consequence, which is just 2 more
2,
chapters.
yeah. Chapters
so,
3 and 4. So it's 4 total.
2 chapters total for both, following Kidman.
Yeah.
You don't want to get into too many spoilers in case people want to check it out. Both of them took me about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You're going to be live streaming the entire expansion on
Yes.
this Friday.
Yes.
What did you think?
I thought the first part was better. I thought they kind of pumped the brakes for the assignment. I thought they played it safe, whereas playing the assignment, possibilities seemed endless. You know, they started throwing Mobius out there. They started throwing out this organization, and they really started crafting this world that we didn't know much about, even after finishing the Evil Within. And I felt like the Consequence kind of just told us stuff we already knew, and it was kind of going through the motions. And you know, the flashlight was so integral in part 1. It was so creative. It was such a change of pace with gameplay, and they didn't really do anything like that with the assignment.
Did you like
The Consequence.
Did
Get
you
them
like?
confused.
Yeah, get them straight, man. Come
Yeah,
on.
I was gonna say part 1, part 2.
Did you like the gunplay? Because we didn't get a lot of gunplay, and almost immediately, you know, just put in a situation, you know, your classic like Last of Us survival horror where you're trapped and you got to shoot stuff.
Yeah, first of all, 10 out of 10. Sawed-off shotgun coming out of nowhere. That was hype. Loved that. But there was still, like, I want to compare it to Resident Evil 5, their DLCs, because they had Lost in Nightmares, which was the flashback Spencer estate, really sneaky survival horror DLC, and then the next one was called Desperate Escape, and it was insane. There were like 100 Kajujus, like out of control chaos, explosions, so much action. I kind of felt like if they were going to do action in the assignment, they should have just gone for it, or the Consequence, I'm sorry. In part 2, they should have just gone for it.
Yeah.
And you were still kind of limited in ammo. You still kind of had a gun in part 1. It was just kind of dancing the line.
So I actually wanted to do an extended Just Played or a Depths on Evil Within, and there's
Yeah.
just like not a lot of time for us
Yeah.
to like schedule stuff like that. But one thing that I took from it is that the one thing that they explore is the environment of Evil Within is really what you make of it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was fascinating that you're in both of these episodes that you're bumping into the characters. You're seeing Castellanos, and the other guy I can't remember his
Oda.
name. What?
Joseph Oda.
Oda. And you're watching these two guys, either on their own or together, trying to figure out what's happening. And it's based on their dialogue that you can actually figure out where they're at in the adventure because you're seeing them basically play what you played in Evil Within.
Yeah.
And it's fun that it kind of screws with you because you're like, that they weren't there. Like, they weren't in this environment.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, she's picturing them in that environment because she's picturing an environment that's coming out of her memory. She's adding that to this world. And so it makes you wonder, okay, so that's what Castellanos was seeing. So it makes me wonder what Oda was seeing, the whole time. Like, was he seeing that hallway? And it's interesting to notice those scenes that were totally different for Kidman and for Castellanos, and the scenes that were the same.
Yeah.
Like the one we get in the Consequences when they meet in that hallway.
I loved that.
And
Yeah.
Castellanos has like the legs pop up, and grab him and pull him through the blood.
Yeah.
And in her thing, he like runs off screaming.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa, is that what actually happened to him? And then she's witnessing that, or is that just what she sees?
Yeah.
And there were interesting story jumps where, and that I wonder if that was his way of telling the story, or if that's actually what happened from her perspective. What was your take on that?
I think there are still some unanswered questions. I think her perspective was more truthful than his, because they started talking about the injection that she had and bringing Mobius in with her. So she had a little. I felt like she had a little more control and a little more take on reality than Castellanos ever did. You know, he was there by chance. He was fish out of water. So I think her perspective on things was the true take.
Also interesting from a story perspective, you know, like you were talking about with Resident Evil, that if you play, you know, Resident Evil 5, you get this kind of, you know, like, the story is locked in there. Like, so when you're done, you get the whole thing, you defeat the enemy, like, story's finished. And then they bring on expansions, and it's like, this is kind of adding to stuff,
Yeah.
but it's not really something you felt like you missed going through.
It had already taken place, kind of.
Where you clearly have tons of questions, mostly about Kidman. They definitely tease Kidman at the end of Evil Within. So what do you think about that, kind of withholding story information, specifically from a horror title, and then releasing these expansions that's kind of like, oh, I have to play that because I want to get these answers?
I love it, because there was such a moment when I was playing where they have their standoff in the main game. You know, she shoots him, and what's his name? The little...
I had his name. I was going to bring it up at the beginning, and I totally forgot. It's like when you know someone's name, and then when someone asks for the name, that's immediately when you forget it.
He runs
like Kelly or Tracy or something like that.
He runs off, and I can remember in the main game when you didn't know what Kidman's motivations were. As Sebastian, I was like, "Oh, you betrayer! Like, curse you for doing this! Like, I'm gonna get you!" And then seeing her side of things is like, oh, it starts putting it into place. And I think it's just a really cool dynamic. I love the formula. And I think even if I was slightly let down by part 2, each of these DLCs is top tier. Like, this is what DLC should always be. Meaningful story content, changes on the gameplay, and long and fair price, and just total package.
So you think the price was fair for the experience
Absolutely.
of both times?
Yeah, because the season pass was $20, so you get these two and SafeHead for $20.
And we don't know what SafeHead is.
Back in the day, they said when Evil Within first came out, they said it was kind of mini game like. So I'm thinking it's gonna kind of be arcadey, not really like Mercenaries mode, but kind of in that vein of just killing people for points, maybe. Yeah.
So one last note that was kind of touching on before, because we were talking about gunplay, and that, you know, you're like, if you're gonna make it high action, just make it action. What I kind of took from it was Castellanos is a cop, so he's used to using all of these weapons. He's used to, like, you know, firing guns a lot. And so when he goes into this nightmare, I almost got a sense that, like, the nightmares manifested themselves as enemies that would cater to the way that he would defend himself.
Yeah.
So, like, if he's kind of bringing the mentality that, like, I have my gun on me and I'm going to use my gun to defend myself, then the nightmares that are going to manifest are also going to try to shoot him, you know, are also going to try to, like, bring guns, or he's going to need more guns. And, like, maybe he's actually, you know, obviously, you know, maybe the whole thing's a nightmare, maybe it's not. And so when you have Kidman, like, that's not really so much a focus for Kidman. Like, she's kind of more of a spy. She's more of, you know, kind of like espionage, like going in and retrieving things. And so it's more about stealth, more about having the flashlight to uncover secrets and stuff like that. And so
representation of her past and the secret of her cult and all that, and then her keeper with the flashlight that was in the part 1 of the town that she was in, you know, all those spotlights. So there's definitely, you know, your perception and your history. And then even they said the whole thing about Leslie, that was his name. The whole thing about Leslie going in was because he had a traumatic past of losing family.
Very sad story. That guy, poor guy.
Gosh. Sebastian lost his wife and child, and then Julie felt abandoned. So there's whole abandonment issues and similarities with Ruvik.
Yeah, really interesting comparison between, you mentioned earlier, Castellanos having no idea what's happening and slowly realizing, like, I think I'm in a machine, I think I'm in this nightmare, and having Kidman, who signed up for it, and who willingly, you know, went into this experience, and then is kind of questioning, like, wait, you know, that thing I saw at the beginning of the game, was that me going in, or was that the beginning of the nightmare, or when did the nightmare actually start, or, you know.
I know. I love when they finally say the wireless frequency,
Right.
the high pitch. So it's like I want to go back to the main game.
Right.
Every time I
There definitely
hear
are
that.
those cues, yeah.
Yeah.
The one final note that's something that's like I guess is just the nature of survival horror video games, especially if you want to do something that's like Nightmare on Elm Street-esque, where we're all kind of like living a nightmare. But it was weird to me that there were so many instances where you're being chased by all of these threats, not only in both expansions but in Evil Within, and yet the nightmares can't. It's kind of like the nightmares are like batting you around like a cat playing with the toy.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're really concerned and if I'm really a threat to you, then just finish me off. Like, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
Like when, and this isn't really a spoiler because I've seen it in trailers, but like there's a couple chase sequences and there's like one where like a bunch of 2x4s from like a fence go like flying up and create a barrier. And it's like, what's to stop the nightmare from just like sending one of those 2x4s into my
I'll tell you
neck?
right now. I'll tell you right now.
Do it.
So you have the third party, which is Mobius,
Right.
who wants Kidman to succeed and get Leslie, and they don't have as much control as Ruvik, obviously. Ruvik is in total control.
Right.
Ruvik is using Sebastian and kind of using Kidman, but mostly Sebastian, to also get Leslie so he can take his body. So they want to keep you alive until, obviously,
I just understand why you
Mobius
can't just
feels
go get Leslie.
betrayed.
You know, like I can't. It's weird because you don't know Ruvik's rule set. You know, you don't know like how he's able to do the things he does.
Yeah.
When he shows up, it's like, where were you 20 minutes ago? Like, why are you showing up now? When he just turns around and walks away, it's like, why are you walking away? So like that's kind of one of the things that disturbs me. But at the
That's
same time,
that's the old tired and true horror films and games suspension of disbelief.
It's the nature of the beast,
I'm
yeah.
just going with it.
and,
you know?
and we're, you know, I mean, how long was Evil Within? Like 16 hours?
15 hours, yeah.
15, 16 hours. You put 2 hours on top of that. 20 hours in this. Do
Yeah.
we really know what the hell is happening at all?
Not really.
No idea. Maybe Safehead will
Yeah.
have all the answers that we're looking for.
He knows everything.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, man.